That's right. Greetings, fellow flameouts and first boots. Tiki here, and welcome to Survivor Storytellers. God, my Pinner impression needs work. Folks, we are at the merge. We're officially dateable. Yeah.
Yay!
And to celebrate us becoming dateable, we brought along a special guest for the ride. Give it up to Mr. Lazer Dude 99, aka Survivor Dude. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I dropped the 99 a long time ago. That's okay. I dropped the 99. I kept the Lazer Dude.
Dude, you know what? You know what's funny? I was inevitably going to bring this up with you when we first met. I vividly remember your old theme song with like the ketchup chips and stuff. So it's like it's hard for me to divorce the 99 from your name just because
I do top 10 lists and now ketchup chips. Yeah, everyone used to say like your intro's too long, and so I kept cutting it down to now.
No,
it's just
I thought
like
it was a bop. I like it because it kind of like exemplifies like old school YouTube like movie commentary. All right, and with us also is Casey, and you guys both have Survivor-related current YouTube stuff. Casey, I'm going to let you plug yours first because you've got a finale coming up.
I do. I created a game where real people played this game. We recorded everything and it was edited together as a web series. I briefly talked about it before, but it is called Prometheus. We're on Facebook. We're primarily on YouTube. Facebook's kind of our central communication hub, but it's facebook.com/prometheus.webseries. We also just got enough certain stats, we'll call it, to make our own custom URL on YouTube. So our URL will be changing very shortly.
Oh, that's honestly going to be really helpful for you.
Absolutely.
Cool.
As of now, it'll probably be a similar thing, Prometheus.webseries, just to kind of keep it, across the board the same. But yeah, this first season that we did, we will be doing a second season, will be or is based off of Survivor, but moving forward, it is already by season 2 very much going to be its own thing. So if you're interested in Survivor, if you're interested in games like Survivor, definitely check it out. I don't think I'm a very egotistical person, but I think that it is pretty solid, especially for a first season. Great cast, pretty good story, pretty good editing, a little bit of everything. So yeah, definitely go check it out. It is called Prometheus. And if you want to find it, it's just the easiest thing to do is type in Prometheus and web series, and I guarantee it'll come up.
All right, and Lazer Dude, your current YouTube stuff, I honestly have not really checked in on your Lazer Dude channel for a while. I'm not sure
That's okay.
I'm not sure how active you still are on it, but I know that I still follow your Survivor Dude content. And what I like about your Survivor Dude stuff, and this is like the main reason why I wanted to have you on, is unlike a lot of Survivor podcasts, you primarily focus on characters. Like that's really like you pretty much do what we do here, which is kind of go down the line of the characters and kind of focus on the arcs and stuff like that. And you do touch on the gameplay, but it feels like for you very much fall into the same line as Casey and I with with appreciating the story and the casting more so than the actual number crunching of it all.
Well, for me, the strategy is what drives me to Survivor. But what I love to do when I watch the show is place myself in the shoes of the players. And for every player, the way I view Survivor is that every single vote, somebody has made a mistake. We won't know who it is until the game's over, but every single vote, somebody has voted somebody out that will be to their downfall, with some exceptions. It depends if, like for example, maybe, by the end of this thing, Ricard gets blindsided by Shan or something, and maybe it was a mistake to vote, Jeannie out instead, something like that. We don't know where the mistakes are made until the picture is clear in front of us. But somebody, I believe, at Survivor will make a mistake every episode. So at every episode, I try to put myself in the positions like, was this a good movie for this player? Was this a good movie for that player? Who is making the good moves and who is this benefiting going forward? And so that's usually what I try to focus on.
All right, and speaking of what you focus on, why don't you go ahead and plug your channel?
Well, okay. I got, of course, if you want to watch some movie reviews and stuff, that is just Lazer Dude. And if you want to watch some Survivor recaps, that is Survivor Dude. I'm keeping the dude in the thing. I don't know what else I'll do. Soap opera dude probably is not going to be a thing, but yeah, so just the Survivor Dude, and just do the recaps. I've tried to do a few other things, like I did cast reactions, but that was usually only for like when it's a season with players that I know them. Like when it's so hard with new players to really get a read on them. It's hard to know who anybody is. Like Sydney going into this season, like I was for sure thought she was going to be first one out. I'm so surprised that she's the merge boot of all things.
Really? First one?
Oh, well, like in her preseason interview, she said, I don't even want to do an alliance thing on day one. I want to just go with the flow. And I like walking around with barely any clothes on. And she seemed really self-conceited. And I was just like, this girl is going to be the annoying person that everyone hates. And she wasn't. I was actually really surprised by her every single episode.
Well, that is a very interesting take, because I feel very much the opposite. But I will definitely get to that when we are ready to officially talk about her.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So before we get into the cast, we've got 12 names to go through here. I want to touch on 2 talking points. Number one, Lazer Dude, I just want to get your opinion on just the season as a whole so far. Just kind of like a baseline sort of thesis statement, just to set your tone.
If I was to choose a saying to go with this season, I would say a great cast makes up for bad twists. Because I love all of these characters. Even though, there's some that we don't get to see a whole lot. But I like Shan was my winner pick from the start of this thing, and I've never been so sure, had so much more faith in a winner pick in my entire life. I've really loved, like, Evie has been really good. Lyanna is definitely an interesting character and someone who I'm not sure would have gotten that much screen time in previous seasons, especially with like the whole diversity thing that they're really going for now. I feel a lot of times they only would focus on one woman of color and everyone else would just get barely an edit until they were voted out. Where here we're getting a lot of different characters in a lot of different places. Xander, a little bit of the pretty boy, but is a little maybe too honest, but does have a little bit of a good head on his shoulders. And then all the characters from Nasia to Deshawn and Danny. And I like Danny's like utter contempt for some of the things going out of this. Like after the twist, he's like, what do you do? What is this? We won. This is like if I won an NHL game and then I got called back and like the ref decided you didn't win. It's
right.
like. So, it's like I've been enjoying all the characters. A lot of these twists, some of them I like. I'll admit, some of them I like. I don't want to get too much into them. But some of them, I'm just like, who's high in the producer's office? Who's smoking up the joint? And we know it's Probst. We know it's Probst, but we'll get into it.
I will say
that actually transitions beautifully into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was the twists. Honest to God, I thought that Advantage Get-In was going to be the end of this madness, but it's just gotten worse. And I'm just like, why? What is going on?
It has over the years. I wouldn't say it's exactly gotten worse. It's stayed sort of along the same trajectory with then
Casey, it's gotten worse, man. I legitimately, as a super fan, I struggle to keep track of who has what every episode, and it never used to be like that.
No, I was making a Survivor Advantage counter on my channel. I had to keep a counter up of who had what.
I can completely, take note of all of who has what advantages, but I'm saying since season, 34 Game Changers, right?
Yeah.
Which is assuming what we were talking about with Suri.
No.
Because then look at a season of David versus Goliath. Wasn't overloaded with an advantages, and absolutely one of the best standout casts we've had in years.
Yes.
that was not on the same plane as Game Changers.
However, David versus Goliath also introduced probably the worst advantage in my mind of all time, which was the Eider Nullifier, and nobody said boo about it because it was used on Dan, who was an idiot, and everyone was
really
like,
lucky with who it was used on.
And then when it was used on Janice, and everyone's like, whoa, wait a minute here, this advantage has gone too far.
I mean, I do think with Janet, though, I truly think she was on the very right trajectory to win the game, which kind of sucks that it happened right at the end. But as for the idol nullifier, when you have so many idols out of freaking control, the idol nullifier is the only thing that feels like it can like satiate that, that like, or I don't know, satiate wasn't really the right word, but like kind of calm it down. But the real solution to it would just be stop adding so more damn idols. But my original point being, though, was just that it has not gotten worse or been the exact same since Game Changers. It's been around, but it's fluctuated from season to season. But this season, I think the advantages are getting to the point where they're out of the control that, in my personal opinion, it doesn't matter that we have a good cast because the advantages are almost ruining the experience for me.
Well, I'm just going to say, thank goodness Shan let it slip to Tiffany of the knowledge it's power advantage, because I feel otherwise it would be too powerful if nobody knew. Because I don't know about you guys, but I think like the knowledge is power advantage wouldn't be the worst advantage in the world on any other season other than this one.
Agreed.
This one, everyone has to do the stupid code word thing.
Yeah.
And means
that
you have at the bare minimum at least 3 people on every tribe who knows where all the advantages are. One person on that tribe lets it slip, and everybody in the whole game knows where they are. So that made the knowledge is power advantage too powerful. But once people knew what it was, then they were able to counter move. It's like, okay, I'm giving my idol and my advantage to Tiffany, and I'm able to counter move and I'm counter react. I wouldn't have been as broken up about the knowledge is power advantage if A, everyone knew about it, like that somebody could get this advantage from the beginning, and B, that it wasn't on a season where everyone basically had to announce that they have an idol.
Yeah. I do like the fact that they have to announce that they have an idol through the code words. I think that's very interesting. Knowledge is power. Yeah, I'd agree. On any other normal season, it'd be fine. I just don't think you should be able to outright steal anyone's advantage or idol. I really think that's bullshit. And then also, like, backtracking a little bit, because I'm looking at the comments for our stream right now. Michael, I completely agree. Ever since they added the names back, I think that was either David versus Goliath or it was Island of the Idols. I think it was Island of the Idols, actually. It's much easier to keep track of, but I never really have any issue with doing so.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's that's a fair point with the captions for sure. I really don't think all the extra votes were necessary, honestly. I don't like extra votes. To me are something where it's like you have to get pretty lucky for them to even factor into the gameplay,
which is why it's a great advantage to dish out like they did in the beginning.
I guess so. I'm actually because like we've used the extra vote for many seasons in Survivor, and that was like the one advantage that they added that from the start everyone was okay with. Like I don't think anybody was saying, "Oh no, don't use this extra vote." I mean, we were sad that Dan got it, but nobody was upset of that. And so they wanted it to work, but the problem is it's so situational that the moment said it can actually be pulled off effectively. So instead of getting rid of it, I think they're like, well, let's give the players multiple. Let's get a lot of extra votes and steal the votes in there at the same time.
That's a fair point, and that's
because one vote might not be able to sway, but if you have 2 extra votes, you could switch the whole game up.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. I just think it's getting to the point where it's like now that the knowledge is power thing has played itself out, and now that the beware advantages have played itself out, I'm really hoping we get to a point where the advantages just become, less completely like entrenched in the storytelling like it has been, because Casey, I 100% agree. This cast for the most part is rock solid. The The problem is, I feel like Survivor is becoming like Mario Party. It's becoming, less skill-based and more like, what wacky item can you get to turn the tides?
Someone's just going to land on a specific rock and pull out an immunity idol, and they're safe for the vote, just like
Yeah.
You landed on the secret space.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Mario Party, and I think there is some skill, but I'll just leave it at that. And then thank you, Michael, for the correction.
I think it
Edge
depends
of
on the
Extinction.
board, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you want to play on the harder boards. That's when there's more strategy and skill to it. But yeah, I mean, we're here as storytellers, so talking about the advantages in a story aspect and not a game aspect. My another big issue with me is that because there are so many advantages, the advantages end up taking a huge part of the narrative. I said it on our last stream. So it was probably me talking about, if I had to guess, episode 4. Could have been episode 3, though.
I think it was right after the JD boot. So yeah, episode 4.
Yeah, I think it was episode 4. It was seriously almost half the episode, or maybe a little bit more than half the episode, where the narrative was all about advantages and what was going on. That is ridiculous. Survivor and many of these reality competitions are a game of social politics.
Totally.
The social part and the strategy need to be primary. In addition to that, given that the damn game is freaking Survivor, we need to see the survival aspects. Someone sacrificing their social time to go fishing, or to do this, or even to, I don't know if I'm supposed to curse on here, but take a shit. Like Jeannie said in her interview.
Go to the bathroom.
Jeannie had to take a shit, and it ruined her one plan because Shan got to JD before her.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. Like, you know how funny and, like, interesting that would have been if, like, Jeannie would have said in a confessional, damn, like, my explosive diarrhea seriously calls me from enacting my plan, and Shan
Number
got
2
to
cost
JD.
me $1 million.
Yeah, like, seriously. Did anyone read that interview with Jeannie,
I
though?
did
No, I did not, no.
Yeah, she said that she had a plan to get in good with JD
with the extra vote.
By informing him that Shan and Ricard were going to try and take his thing, but Shan got to him before she could because she had to go to the bathroom, and by the time she was done going to the bathroom, Shan had already taken his vote again.
Oh man, yeah,
That's gotta suck.
That would have been so cool.
Okay,
to create a narrative.
To be fair, though, Jeannie, you didn't do yourself any favors by basically handing Shan the immunity beware advantage. So it's not like so close. You know, you could have used that idol. All I'm saying.
Oh man, I don't blame Jeannie though, because if someone didn't have the other idol though, and they would have gone there, it would have been 2-0. You know.
Well, either it would have been 2-0, or it would have been like. If you believe, you got to believe that Shan's with you. I don't know. I mean, it's possible that you could do something else with it, but it would take a lot of big brainness, which I'm not sure you could have done. I mean, what would even happen at that point if someone can't vote and then 2 people vote each other?
That's a good question.
I would actually assume. My guess is that.
You go to fire?
It's never happened. You would either go to a fire making challenge, or they would just say, given the circumstances, yes, you lost your initial vote, but now you need to break the tie.
No, Xander gets to come over and use his vote that he hasn't been using his whole time. It's only applicable in this scenario.
What a major twist, though, with Xander. I did not think he would actually recover and get in good with the girls. So the 3 that he actually wanted is now truly a 3 in the game, and they're the underdogs.
Yeah.
So we'll break that all down. Xander is actually going to be saved for last in the pecking order here. But Casey, I mean, something to say, I'm definitely like more on the Xander train than I was after this episode, obviously. So.
I figured, but to be honest, for me, that little trio, I'm really not. Normally, I would be super high on them, but actually, in the reality of it, I'm like actually was really hoping for one of them to go, especially more specifically speaking, Evie. But
okay, we'll get into it. So let's start with Sydney. Let's start with our honorary merge boot. I love post-game Sydney. Let me just say, I have not kept up with most of the exit interviews, but post-game Sydney does not give an F.
No, she gives many F-bombs. Many F-bombs she gives.
I don't know, man. There's something just delightful about a player that just just cuts loose about just how freaking unfair some of these advantages are. And I will say, I do think that the bottle, the hourglass advantage, bottle was a Freudian slip because the bottle twist was also one of the worst twists in Survivor history. And I think this is also among them.
I said in my channel, it's like, this is Survivor has not had many cliffhangers. They have had a few, but this is the least amount of tension I've ever felt over every cliffhanger. Because I was like, either she smashes it because she has a brain cell, or she doesn't smash it and she deserves to go home. If you don't do it at that point, you deserve it.
You know what I think would have been infinitely I don't think it would have saved the twist by any means, because I just think the idea of you going out of your way to win a challenge that you're told that you're going to win. I mean, we don't have to go through all this. We all know how crazy it is. But I do think at the very least, if she would have been safe no matter what she chose.
You know what I think would have been interesting?
At least given it a level of okay, do I rock the boat or do I not rock the boat? But with her having immunity, specifically only if she does it, it's a no-brainer at that point.
You know what I think would have been interesting? How about instead of her being instead of them running the whole challenge and then psych, you didn't win it, instead of them doing it would have been more interesting if they were to if the people were able to vote to their side and they don't know what they're doing, or they were to vote for someone to go to Edge of Extinction, or not Edge of Extinction, Exile Island. If they were to vote her basically there, and then she got to choose who was sent to tribal council. That's the thing. She doesn't get to go to the group, but she gets to choose who's up for elimination. So she could stack the deck against somebody that she really wants out, maybe, but maybe it doesn't work out that way because people are unpredictable. And you don't know how that group of 6 that she chooses is going to turn out. But at least that would have, the game would have flowed in the direction of the game. It would have flowed together. Whereas instead of pulling the crank, it's nah, you didn't win it. Would have that just disjoints everything, and you felt like that entire challenge was pointless. You might as well not even try to win. In fact, it would have been in your interest if you had known this ahead of time to not win that challenge.
Yeah.
So point being with Sydney, I totally, absolutely 100% get the salt. I understand the salt completely.
Oh, I do too. There are people who know her in real life that have actually, I think, even recently come out and said that, oh no, the girl that you saw on Survivor, that's 100% her. Which I was pretty convinced that she was hamming it up for the camera. But I will say with Sid, I have to say, in the recent years of Survivor, she has got to be one of those players that I was very, very wrong based off the edit. I wasn't convinced she'd win, but I was very convinced that she would bring some fucking chaotic energy to the merge, and that did not happen. I cannot believe she was cut short.
Yeah, I feel like she had the potential to be another Angelina.
Yeah.
Oh, a more chaotic version.
I think, Angelina was she had the outside smile of a PR rep, but the phoniness where you could see right through her,
right.
where Sydney was basically just you suck and I'm awesome, shut up.
But yeah, I don't know. I do just kind of admire Sydney as a character for that reason. Just kind of randomly having the provider storyline. I don't really.
Have we ever seen a woman have that storyline?
No,
What?
I really don't think we've ever seen that.
I've never,
which was a very interesting thing this season.
Yeah, because I've never seen in the history of Survivor a woman pick up the spear and use it successfully. We had Sally, I think, in Exile Island, lose it. But that's like, wait, I don't think we've ever had a woman like use like, and like women have caught fish using like regular fishing gear, but I've never seen anyone like get an edit like, I just caught 8 fish today with a fishing spear. I'm the woman Rupert.
She also literally in the season premiere, she literally won crab hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah, she won crab hunting and she caught 9 fish. Like that right there is probably the biggest female, provider story we've gotten.
Yeah, totally. So
the
I think
weirdest
she's a really refreshing character. She's probably never going to be back because of the post game stuff. But
oh, absolutely not. But I think I would love it if the producers and everyone was just like, all right, we'll ignore that. Now let's bring back Angelina and Sydney and put them on the same season.
Oh my god! Oh,
because Jeff,
throw Debbie in there.
Jeff did say that Angelina is the #1 person he would bring back from David versus Goliath.
I believe it.
Davey?
Yeah, he said the 2 people he'd bring back would be
it makes sense.
Angelina first and then Hubicki second.
No, that makes sense. It makes sense.
Right.
So let's transition from Sydney. Any other final thoughts on her?
No,
I was really shocked that Deshawn and Danny just threw her out like that. Like they were willing to throw a challenge to get rid of Erica because she was coming after Sydney, and yet they threw her out. Like, why didn't they just, as soon as this Xander was like, I'm playing my idol for Evie, why didn't they just say, hey, Lyanna, why don't you steal Nasir's idol and then we'll just vote him out? I was
really worried for Nasia. I got to admit, I was kind of on the edge of my seat that exactly that same scenario was going to happen.
Yeah, I was convinced it was going to happen from the second they introduced that third idol. But I think because they really wanted to make sure no one would play anything on Evie.
Yeah, but it's like there was no, like, even if they did, it wouldn't have mattered. Like if they all voted Nasia, like.
I thought you meant just straight up stealing Nasir's idol.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I would straight up steal Nasir's idol, then have everyone vote out Nasia, and then they'll probably still be too afraid that it's a bluff and still play the idol on Evie.
Nasia, well, here's the thing. Nasia is a stand-up guy. He probably would be a very loyal ally. So to Deshawn and Danny, and with the fear of possible having an all-female alliance,
I think
that
was
the
big thing for Sydney. I think that's kind of what killed
her. That is the reason. The only reason I can think of why they decided to cut Sydney instead, because she was the only other woman they had access to.
Yeah, I agree. But I think generally speaking, I think Sid would have actually been way more down to play with the guys than the girls.
Oh yeah, totally.
So
and Nasia, I don't know if Deshawn or Danny could beat Nasia. I mean, maybe if they just straight up outplayed him, but I'm not sure. Nasia is more likely to get jury votes than Sydney. So I'm just saying, for me, if I was in their shoes, I probably would have got rid of Nasia sooner than Sydney. But actually, or just go straight up Sydney. You know, it's like there was too much at risk with all this stuff going on. This didn't blow up in their face, but it really could have.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
So next up, Danny. I don't think I agree, Lazer Dude, that his complaining about the twists were it was entertaining. Like from a winning point of view, I don't think it was a good look at all. And as a matter of fact, I think his whole merge narrative was basically like Deshawn is gonna roll with the flow and roll with the punches, whereas Danny is kind of like too set in his ways.
Well, we all knew that looking at this is just like, unless he has the greatest social game of all time, Danny's not winning this thing. He's the only one of them that's an actual athlete. Well, I mean, I guess there are some athletes on this thing, but the guy is a tank. Like any physical challenge that's going to come up. And like I guarantee Danny is the reason the Blue Tribe never went to tribal council. That's what I view it as.
I can see that.
Yeah.
But I don't think he has a
pretty high on Danny last time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I absolutely love Danny. I don't think he will make it far. I think honestly, within the first couple boots of the merge, he will be one of those boots. Just because he is the only super standout physical threat. with the exception of Xander. But Xander is an underdog. He's on the bottom. I could see people trying to use him as a number. But I mean, there's so many factors. I'm not really sure. But with Danny, I mean, I feel like he had such a powerful edit in the premiere, and then pretty quickly on, it
Deshawn
started to shift to Deshawn, and I wasn't expecting that. Whereas I think Deshawn is probably going to he's going to go pretty far. But I mean, I've said it a couple times before. This season, the producers have been pushing a very specific narrative, and I feel like if there is one thing I can actually truly read in the edit, and I'm perfectly fine with it, and it's long overdue, is that we are getting a female winner this season. But for Danny, I really like Danny. He was on the more invisible side this episode, and he had 0 confessionals at all, which was kind of surprising.
Yeah, Casey, I definitely agree with you, because I feel like this season, in a lot of ways, is Survivor doing a little bit of damage control after 39. Like 40 was great and everything, but now this is the first time we're doing a new cast, and so they went out of their way to cast diversively. And I feel like you're right that there is definitely like probably a woman winner this time, and that's why the women are getting the best edits of the show. Like Deshawn's getting a decent edit and everything, but the big characters of the season right now are Shan, Evie, and Lyanna in that order. And then Tiffany's like one of the bigger characters of the goofy characters like that's going on. And we check in on Nasia, we check in on Deshawn, and we check in on Xander. But I guess then that's basically it. But it feels like more check-ins, not deep dives into their strategy.
Yeah, I mean, I think with those characters, especially those women, I really fear, because I am not a Tiffany fan. I fear she is going to make it far.
Oh, I pencil her in at the end.
Yeah, I could see her going to the end, but. If I had to guess, I could see Shan, Evie, Tiffany being there at the end, with Shan probably being the fallen angel of the season, and then Tiffany making it to the end and probably being a 0 vote finalist. Unless someone like Heather is there. Then she
I think Heather's gonna get the she's taken one of our spots vote, because I feel like if Heather was like, even like the biggest goats to the end still get an edit, you know, the Natty Tenorellis still the ones who still get an edit to show that they're there. I mean, has somebody done a count yet? Who has more confessionals, Heather or Purple Kelly at this point? I don't know, because
honestly, Heather had maybe 2. Purple Kelly, or at the very least, they're tied.
Yeah, Heather has had 2 confessionals the whole game on the first episode and the 4th episode. That's it.
Yeah, and that to me, like let me put it this way:
like she had the milk confessional, and then I think on her quit episode she had like a decent number of confessionals.
Let me put it this way: if Heather was a finalist, they would have included that secret scene where she made up a dream to throw sus on Sydney.
Oh, I love that. I love that secret scene. Oh my god!
So I will have to say 2 things. One. For this season, I have not actually kept up with any of my Survivor podcasts like I usually do, and I have not watched any of the secret scenes. I know, I'm a fake fan. But
I haven't watched them all, but I just saw this one.
But yeah, I actually got into an argument with my brother the other day about that, because he was like, what the fuck? Like, they don't do anything for Heather. They didn't put in that secret scene. That secret scene was golden. And I said, okay, here's the thing. And he explained the secret scene to me, and it seemed really interesting. And, you know, at some point I will go back and watch all the secret scenes. But narratively speaking, for someone who we now know for Sydney, who just got voted out, and for Heather, who so far hasn't amounted to anything, especially with her relationship of Sid, it doesn't fit in narratively. What's the point of adding that scene if this is the way Sid goes out? And if Heather doesn't really amount to anything, it's while it's cool, and that's the kind of content I would like to see, narratively speaking, from like an editor standpoint, it just doesn't make sense. There's other things that are more pressing.
Yes.
I mean, I've actually heard that Heather and Sydney kind of had a pretty a pretty raw rivalry on the island. So I kind of feel like that was
Sid's exit interview. She really laid into Heather.
Yeah, she's like, God, give a participation trophy because you saw. Oh, she didn't give up. What was she supposed to do? It's just like,
yes, Sid. Like, did you wait? I forget. Did you read the article? Either of you guys, Sid's article?
No, I listened to the Rob Has a podcast exit interview with Sydney, and it was just like, she's like, oh, bravo, you just sucked so hard, but you didn't give up. It's just
yeah, in her I think it's EW that does the interviews. They do so many of them, but when they interviewed Sydney, she laid into Heather. She at first kind of tried to avoid talking about Heather, but they kind of asked again about it. She laid into Heather. She doesn't like Heather. She thinks Heather is holier than thou and all this other crap. And she makes everything about herself, which is really ironic coming from her.
So yeah. So with that being said, I really do think that there was potential for a Sid versus Heather storyline at the very least, just to flesh out.
But if it never actually happened, what's the point in wasting that when there are other bigger characters and stories to tell?
Well, I would say that there are scenes that we saw from Tiffany that doesn't necessarily pan out. Like, I mean, at least haven't yet. Like the scene where Xander's like, hey, here's my immunity. I just found it today. And Tiffany's like, oh, yeah, right, you liar. You know, is that scene like now they're aligned and they're on a team and they're not going against each other? Maybe they will down the road, but I feel like that's a moment that you give to someone who's still going to go far. You know, it's like you give character moments to people who are going to go far. And I feel like Heather is going to be voted out pretty soon because I think some of these bigger players are going to be like, look, if Heather stays in any longer, she's just going to make it to the end. And now my group just will be broken up because we'll all be fighting for Heather as our GOAT.
I have a feeling that Heather is destined to be the first boot of a double boot episode.
Yeah. Whatever episode she goes on is a double boot, for sure.
Well, usually they do double boots around like 10 and 11. Most of the time it's episodes 10 and 11 are the double.
Anyway, maybe we shouldn't talk about Heather till we get to her. I'm sorry.
I honestly feel like we pretty much mined everything that we need to say about Heather just in that little side tangent.
Yeah, we might have. Like, I don't really have anything else to say about her.
It's like, what is there to... I honestly feel like Heather is there is at least one person like this per season where it's like, you know, I remember with Ranger Rick from South Pacific, for example, he became interesting to me primarily because of the fact that he was never shown. Like, so anytime he popped up in the background, I was like, oh, there he is.
Well, that and he started calling Albert Prince Albert. That's just hilarious.
You know, the thing I most remember about Rick is like in the little build up to the the previously on Survivor for the finale when they give them all like quotes at the end for who will win.
There'll be blood in the water.
Yeah, the blood in the water thing. Yeah, there's blood in the water. We're just all swimming around in it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Danny, any final thoughts on Danny? I think I honestly wouldn't be surprised if it was going to be like
I think
if it was Heather going out as the first boot in a double boot episode and then Danny as the second boot in a double episode, just because he's so obviously like a... Like, I said this from day one, as likable as he is, I think he's like the prototypical early merge boot. Like, he is just like, he's bred to be the sacrificial lamb of the early merge. Kind of like John Hennigan style.
For me, it depends on how strong this Black Alliance stands. Like, because I think this would be a good, like, if he's able to ride this out for a few votes and they're able to keep him around, I think this... As long as he can get within like 4 or 5 immunity challenges of the win, I mean, he's in a decent spot there. But I feel like eventually the girls are probably gonna find greener pastures and turn on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, I'm sure we all watch or at least know of, what happened in the most recent season of Big Brother. I'm not opposed to having a people of color alliance or an all black alliance, especially given that they have not had exactly the most representation in previous seasons. I think that's Danny's fairest shot of making it far. But I think also with the way that Survivor's structured and its fluidity, there's no way that they're all going to be able to stick together till the end. And they're not the final four. What's that?
They're not the final four.
Oh, absolutely not. And it will come down to all, as I've said, all women with maybe, I really feel maybe Deshawn or Nasia making it the farthest for the guys.
I would say, yeah, I would say that's fair. I say Nasia maybe because of his non-threateningness, or Deshawn based on his social play, because he does seem to have worked in a good relationship with Lyanna and Shan. So
I feel like Nasia's archetype too tends to make it pretty far.
Yeah, he's like a Ty.
Nasia the fallen angel for a while.
Yeah. Well, I view him very similar to Ty, and even though Ty made it to the end, as somebody who wants to play strategically but doesn't actually necessarily have the strategical chop, although Ty did pretty good on his second round, I'll give him that.
Well, let's not jump to Nasia just yet.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Who's it?
We can skip. We can jump past Danny, right?
Yeah, we're done with Danny.
We're done with Danny. We're done with Heather.
Deshawn.
Deshawn, I mean, actually, we've really jumped all over to everyone at this point. Deshawn, I think I said everything I needed to say about him. You know, his edit really started to pick up after the first couple episodes. Episode 4, he had 9 confessionals in episode 4, and his narrative, his narrative has really picked up. I really feel like while I did not like him in the first episode, he came off a little bit more of a villainous right-hand man to Danny. I think he's the one that's probably truly the brains, whereas Danny's like a bit of the muscle and the social. Yeah. And I see Deshawn, like I said, I see Deshawn being one of 2 potential guys that makes it pretty far. Deshawn currently is tied for 3rd of most confessionals this season. So I feel like Deshawn's got a pretty far trajectory as a character. I'm really starting to like him, and I think that's all I have to say about him.
I think out of everyone in the cast, he might have had the best merge edit, primarily because of how they edited his reaction to the twist. And I really think that each season, like, there's a big theme, and I feel like with this season, it's pretty much the stupid, like, oh, the game's the monster or whatever. You gotta outrun the monster.
Almost coming to get you, Survivor.
But honestly, like, you know, Deshawn did do that this past episode. He was very good about rolling with the punches, and, you know, he complimented Xander on the good move, and so I do think that those little moments like that, like, I don't think he's gonna win. I really don't, primarily because of the female winner thing you guys have been stressing. I do think if any of the guys are gonna win, it's probably gonna be him.
Yeah, I would. Deshawn, I usually go my winner pick. I pick one guy, one girl. Sometimes I go by tribe, but this time I did one guy, one girl. And Shan was my woman winner pick, and Deshawn was my guy winner pick. And I still feel very good about him. I'm not sure. I've said I still feel like a woman is winning this season, and obviously it's about time. But I do feel good about him as a player. He seems to have a good. I gave him MVP on my. I haven't edited my video yet, but when you see it, I gave him MVP just because even though Xander's play was flashy, it was who Deshawn wanted to go home, who went home. You know, and that I put a little bit more stock in.
It's a fair point.
Casey, anything on Deshawn?
No, like I said, I think I said everything I did need to.
Cool. Okay, let's get to the next person, and that is Nasia.
This is Nasia.
Me personally,
Casey, we've been kind of like going back and forth on like who Nasia most resembles. And honestly, I think the beauty of Nasia is that he takes a little bit of like many fan favorites and kind of rolls them up into his own personality. So I honestly still think he's got a little bit of Rupert in him, just because, frankly, I don't think he's that good at the game, but he's got like an over-the-top enthusiasm for it. And I honestly feel like Ty is another good comparison with that. Yao Man, certainly, although I think Yao Man
Man was more strategical than Nasia.
Yao Man, I think, plays head and shoulders above Nasia, but I could, you know, Casey, you were mentioning like from a perspective of like the backstory, Yao Man is definitely similar, but with Nasia, I honestly feel like I was pretty confident on him being the fallen angel, like, you know, the 5th or 4th place. But now I don't know. I just think like with all the idol shenanigans and with his idol being so out in the open, I really think that's going to bite him in the ass. I'm really worried about that. I feel much more comfortable about him if he didn't have that idol, honestly.
See, the thing is that Nasia is so likable from every freaking perspective. All his preseason content, all of his current content in the game, as an audience, as a player, I'm sure
he's also a Bay Area native, so yeah.
I'm sure
you know how that goes with me rooting for Kyle on Prometheus. I know he's not Bay Area, but California. So
yeah, hey, you gotta represent. I'm cheering for Shan because she's Canadian. So,
but sure. But with Nasia, he's so likable. The funny thing is that Nasia hasn't had a ton of confessionals. He hasn't had a ton of screen time. But when he's given that time, he dominates. He freaking shines. And I think that's the thing. I could actually, and as I said, Deshawn or Nasia, they're one of the two. Deshawn, due to the fact that I feel like he's actually a pretty good player, that we are getting hints of how good he is, but we're not fully seeing it. Whereas Nasia, everyone's just going to love him. It's all part of his social game, whether he strategically is making that, his play. But I feel like he's gonna go far. He's only had 8 confessionals this whole game. It's an average of 1 an episode. But once again, he's standout.
That's weird that's it. Because although I feel like every time in the pre-merge they would just check in on the Blue Tribe because you knew they weren't going to Tribal Council, and you would just check in on Sydney and Nasia, Danny and Deshawn, and then we'd leave, and then you'd leave Erica and Heather. I mean, let's be but Nasia himself is a lot of fun, but I don't see when I'm interested to see what he might do with Xander, because there was that scene where he and Xander said, "I got your back, we're good." Yes. And I don't know what that's setting up.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. I definitely kind of filed that away.
Yeah, if that doesn't go anywhere, that is a bad red herring from the editors. It's a really bad one because it's definitely a tease, and the moment is so it's literally seconds. That has to go somewhere. They both have idols, unless Xander or we'd be surprised if Nasia plays Xander, but I could see more so Xander playing Nasia.
I don't think Xander has any room to play anybody. He needs people.
Yeah, I mean, could you imagine if somehow he plays Nasia and gets his idol and gets 2 freaking idols and has an advantage?
Okay, this is Xander we're talking about.
I know. But I'm just saying, to add that moment in, it's got to amount to something, whether that's them working together or whether that's someone playing that person.
He has more screen time than Brett. I'm sorry.
I know. I just the way that you said it, Xander.
I know it's Xander. It's not Mike Tyson. It's Brett. Yeah, I'm interested to see. I feel like Nasir's going to have a moment where he does change the game, but I don't think it will necessarily be in his favor. I could see him, picture this scenario. Deshawn's you know what? Even though I didn't trust him at the beginning, I really do trust Nasia now. In fact, I want to go all the way to the end with Nasia. And then he tells Nasia that, and Nasir's like, "Oh, Danny thinks he can fool me." Then he goes and tells Shan everything. And then they vote out Danny, even though Danny was seriously trying to work with Nasia. Tell me that scenario couldn't happen.
No, I absolutely think that's going to be Nasia is going to be the downfall of Nasia. No matter, I definitely don't think he's going to win. But even if he makes it to Final Tribal Council somehow, I really even though he's likable, I don't think he's got the game to pull it out, especially in a season this competitive in the gameplay department. So
in the modern in the 20s, early 20s, maybe.
There's still a lot of game to be played. I mean,
right? But I just don't have faith in Nasia to play said game. I feel like he's chaos waiting to happen.
I think he's gonna. I think he would. I think more so he's gonna be Ty season 1. But the thing about it is that let's look at, and please feel free to disagree or even correct me, there are a lot of really good Survivor players who have either picked up their game at the merge or right at the very end of the merge and have won it or made it into the final 3.
Natalie Anderson.
I mean, like, I could think of so many people.
Yeah.
And we can't discount Nasia. But do I think it's going to happen? No, I think we're getting Ty season 1. That's what I guess I'll leave it at.
All right. Yeah, that's all I got to
be fair, I'm discounting Nasia specifically because of how he's been edited is a bit aloof.
You know, you ever wish you could go back to where you couldn't read the edit? Like,
yes, I do, honestly.
To be honest, I try and not.
It's impossible.
I try not to. Because
once you see it, you just notice patterns. Like, they're not going to give the finalist a good or a bad edit, or or the fact that we're focusing on these people show that they're going to go far, and the fact that we're not doing that person. I mean, let's be honest. The last time I was really surprised with a winner of Survivor was Chris Underwood.
I will say though, this season's boot list has been unpredictable. Specifically with JD.
I'd say that, yeah.
JD,
I thought for sure. I thought JD was going home when Brad went home. I thought Jeannie was going home when JD went home.
I think with JD, though, I really like JD. As I've said before, JD was originally on my fantasy team. He was, believe it or not, he was my sole Survivor pick. I think from his preseason content, I had high hopes for him. After seeing him episode 1, I was like, okay, this guy either makes it somewhere into the merge or he's out pre-merge. And he was out the 4th episode.
Yeah. But anyway, we shouldn't waste time on people who are not in the game anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so Erica, a.k.a. the person that got boosted up on the edit based on a bullshit twist.
I think Erica's story, personally, really is production story so far.
Yeah, same.
Her one...
Told out of necessity.
Well, her one episode 4, that was a very interesting hint to the possibility of Erica actually being a good player. Where she was talking about Sid, because I interpreted her episode 4 as one of two things. We're either getting Colton, where she's just eager to play the game, or we are getting someone who actually might be a fucking snake.
Don't insult her. She's not Colton. Gosh.
I mean, in terms of Colton just wanted to play the game, So she was either like someone who just...
No, I get what you mean. I'm just saying.
And she was just overextending herself, or she's going to be a snake in the merge. But currently, right now, her edit really is just production's edit.
I have a feeling that she's going to go right back to being invisible next episode.
We only checked on her for like 5 seconds as soon as she got back to camp. It's like as soon as she was on edge of extinction, she was basically like Parvati in terms of screen time. And as soon as she got back, she turned, maybe not Purple Kelly, but somebody else just as like we saw her having one conversation with Ricard, and that was it.
I mean, I as a personality, I think I like her. I think she's very
I do too.
Nice.
Another Canadian, like her a lot.
Yeah, of course. Like we said, root for your hometown, but
he's Toronto, other side of the country, but
well, yeah, I know, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't think there's a lot. Like, I hope that she doesn't just get completely purpled by the edit, but I just have a feeling that the editors are like, well, we got to make her likable in this one circumstance just to land this twist. So
let me put it this way: if I felt like Erica was making it to the end, she would probably have just been getting a lot more screen time. I feel like she's a result of, we don't have as much story to tell about her, and she's not as big as a character to just hog the screen, but if she was a player that the game was going her way, I think we would have gotten a lot from her. I don't think she's like a boring nothing personality as say maybe Heather is. I think that Erica does have a lot, like her confessionals are fun and the way she was doing it is fun. and everything. And I think she's, does everything. I like this sort of like small woman that's ready to cut everyone. I think that's fun, but she's not given much of an edit, and so therefore we can tell that she's not in it for the long haul.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right.
Or maybe this could be one of the things where she might not win, but they pick up her edit in the last half. Which is what
I was saying. I think she could potentially prove to be like the snake of the merge.
Mm-hmm.
All right. True. Next up, Shan. So Lazer Dude, I was just as high on Shan as you were. I was just as high as you were on her until the merge episodes.
Oh, come on now. You can't let the merge episode taint it, because, like, come on. Not every winner has had the best
argument with Ricard was very... I honestly think that argument with Ricard, like, maybe you needed to show it, but to me, it almost was so negative that it kind of ruled them both out, honestly.
I do think that is a bad sign, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and up until then, I was legitimately like hyping her up, like, oh man, she might be like one of the best female characters ever. And I still think like pre-merge, she might have like the most compelling pre-merge character arc of all time. Maybe she's in the running for that as far as a pre-merge edit goes. But unfortunately, the one, I mean, besides forming the the alliance, which was, I mean, that was a good scene for, I feel like that was a good scene, mutually beneficial for all four people in that scene. But outside of that, her content in the merge was the petty fight with Ricard, and then not really much of anything else. I mean, honestly, she was shockingly invisible last episode.
But might I remind you of a certain winner by the name of Adam, who had probably one of the worst merge episodes of all time?
Sure. I do not like Adam. I really don't think he's that great of a player.
Oh, I think he's good. I just think he's middle of the road. I would, like, at the very least, I will say this, like, he tried to work something in Winners at War, and it ended up being his downfall, but as opposed to a player like Nick or someone who just sat around and waited for their turn.
Well, the thing is, I'll say this with Adam, then I'll get to Shan. With Adam, yeah, I guess he's middle of the road. He's so middle of the road that I often cross the yellow line. I'd probably run his ass over. But with Adam, Winners at War, every freaking episode, he made colossal mistake after colossal mistake. And David versus Goliath, Millennials versus Gen X. I really could go on a long tangent about why I do not like Adam. But going to Shan is very likable. She has by far been one of the most compelling female contestants in years. And in addition to that, there is no contest that she has not only dominated screen time, but also confessionals more than any other player in this game as of now. Yeah. Granted, she was not as prominent in episode 7 with 0 confessionals, but for the first 6 episodes, she's had 36 confessionals. The next highest is Evie at 27.
And Evie disappeared in like the 2 episodes before the merge.
The 3 episodes before the merge, 0 confessionals, 1 and 1, and her screen time was very low. And I think that's because there was a massive shift to the Green Tribe.
And to Lyanna instead of Evie.
Yeah, which I think Lyanna, I think... I'm hoping this wasn't Lyanna's supposed high point, because she had a fair amount of
I hope not.
Oh, God.
I figured Lyanna would probably blossom at some point in the merge, if she made it to the merge. And I think we might get round 2, but I think if she doesn't pull off round 2, that might be her one and last shot,
Now, as opposed to everything, I see what's happened with Ricard and how bad that can be. And do I think it's brewing a storm? Heck, yes, I do. However, I don't feel like Ricard has necessarily the social game to pull a front against her.
Ricard easily has the worst social game in the whole cast. We'll get into that.
But in the end, he might not need to, like if Erica comes up to him and says, hey, me and Heather and Nasir want to vote out Shan, maybe that's all he needs. He doesn't necessarily need to be the person to do it. I think that I think that for Shan, though, her ability to wrap people around her finger is outright. It's Parvati levels of social, and I know that's high praise, but don't you get a little bit of a feeling of like an Amanda Parvati relationship between Shan and Lyanna? That same sort of like one is clearly like a better like player, but they both have like a friendship sort of thing.
It's a very interesting comparison I never thought of. I wouldn't disagree.
My thing with Shan, maybe right now, is I don't want to get my hopes up, I guess, because she was such a big character. And like I'm just like, she was my winner pick for a while, but I kind of fell off of that just because I do think her edit kind of started to take a turn towards the negative. Towards the end of the merge, even with the Genie vote out.
Well, here's the thing. I feel like this is the first time we're editing a woman to get like a Tony edit. Hogging all the camera time, but is also very duplicitous in all of their but isn't making that a negative thing. A lot of times when a woman backstabs someone like Twyla or something, everyone's like, how dare you? You swore on your...
God, don't get me started. I have words about how Twyla was treated on that jury, man.
But I think this time they're just like, you know what? So what? She's playing the game. This is Shan. Yeah. She's playing the game. She's doing what she needs to do. And I think this time they're giving her the edit.
Her target is huge right now.
It is huge. But like, she also has a few other people to hide behind.
Sorry.
Shan maybe from production, editing, and even a cast standpoint, yes. But in terms of the player base, the fan base has, I don't know why I said player base. The fan base has been very divided on Shan, and I have probably actually seen more negative of Shan than anything else.
Yeah, but this was the same thing with when Tony had his original run in Cagayan. Everyone hated Tony.
The thing is, I've said it since the beginning. When it comes to the villains of this season, as of now, are Ricard and Shan. Ricard's an unlikable villain. Shan is a likable villain.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I just don't think her edit in the merge episodes was flattering, but I do also think you could pivot and make the argument that, especially with the latest episode, it was very much a cool down for her, which is a very good thing for a winner edit to have.
My prediction for Shan is she's going to ride this color alliance for a few votes. I think she's going to try to get rid of some of the people that she views as threats, like Xander and Evie, but also some of the people who she might view as possible goat spot hoggers, like Heather and Erica. And then I think she's going to try to sweep up like Tiffany and I don't know, and Nasir maybe, and then like go against her guys. And that's my process for her. Now, Ricard is the wild card in all of this. He knows what type of player Shan is, and right now he's aligned with her. But if he starts viewing that she's going to go with this all-color alliance, don't think for a second that he's not going to turn on her and let everybody know. Because I think everyone, at least maybe in his alliance, at least Lyanna knows that she has the immunity idol, but I don't know if anybody knows about the extra vote.
All right.
For Shan?
Can we transition to Ricard then?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ricard, as I said, I like maybe besides Heather, because it seems to me like Heather is just not doing herself any favors at all out there. I think besides Heather, I think Ricard probably has the worst social game of the cast. Everyone on UA from exit interviews, I haven't listened to the exit interviews, but I've kind of been following exit interviews when it comes to like winner speculation. Yeah. Everyone on UA pretty much disliked him. And then in the merge, I really got the vibe that he was just kind of floating along. I mean, obviously, it's a very edited product. You know, we don't really know what was going on. But from the edited show, I got the vibe that he was pretty much just like, all right, I'm just going to go where the numbers are and just kind of see where this shakes out, I guess. I really don't think he's doing a good job of assimilating himself anywhere, honestly. Like, at this point, he's pretty much just hanging on to Shan because that's his only connection in the game. And I really, you know, I don't think I saw him make any substantial connections in the past 2 episodes of the merge. So I don't know, man. It's funny because I feel like Ricard was one of the first people, like, since he is a big social media whore, I feel like he is one of the people that got leaked very early in this cast. And just because of his job being a flight attendant, and everyone's like, oh, he's in his mid-30s, he's a flight attendant, he's super social.
New Todd Herzog.
What?
Everyone say New Todd Herzog.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And no, that just is not the account at all.
No.
No.
I think
Ricard's that
Ricard is the new Albert or like Sash.
Ricard's
kind of got that Weasley energy about him.
Dude, that's the thing though. If anything, Ricard's that flight attendant who's just a stuck-up dick. You don't want to interact with him, but when you
want me to go all the way in the back and get peanuts? I just had the card out a minute ago.
Yeah, he's someone who you do not want to interact with. If he ever made it to the end, which I
get off the plane.
I don't think he will. He would definitely be the person that loses with a couple of votes due to his social game. In addition to that, for Ricard, though, it seemed like he actually did get him, even though they didn't show anything specific, it seemed like he actually got himself in pretty well in those 2 days of the, like, faux merge in episode 7. And so I think with Ricard, though, I think he also kind of thinks too highly of himself, which I think might also be his downfall, because he's going to get to a point where he's going to be like, I know the strategy, I know the moves, and this is what we got to do. And it's just going to probably rub people the wrong way to the point where they're just like, we need to get him out. He's getting on my nerves.
Yeah,
I
can see
he's trying to be too strategic. We need to get him out.
I can see a moment where he like brings up an alliance against Shan, thinking he's got it all, but then Shan has like made a relationship with somebody that he wasn't expecting, and it gets back to her and she's able to flip it right on him. But like for right now, Ricard's best strategy is to lay low. Like Shan's not coming for him right now. You got the whole Yasa alliance that's kind of put themselves against Shan and her crew. So he just needs to lay low and wait for his moment till he can bring it up against the other guys. Does he have the social capital to do it? I don't know. It doesn't feel like he does, but I have a feeling like maybe even if he doesn't win, maybe he's able to take out Shan. Like that's the only thing. Like if anyone's taking out Shan, I think it could be Ricard, and then he goes next because I don't think he's making it to the end.
Oh, I God. Totally I fucking hope not.
I hope not too.
All right. Okay, next up, Evie.
Oh, Evie. She's in a tough spot. And I will say this is a tough spot brought on only because of this split twist. I don't necessarily think that Deshawn is going after Evie first because he made a good connection with her. I think they might be like, hey, you got to cut Xander or something like that. Or, you know, like, or maybe they're able to throw it on Ricard. Ricard might have saved himself with winning that immunity. It's very possible. But I think that right now, with the way the last tribal turned out, she can't really trust Lyanna. Even if Lyanna says, hey, you want to work with me with this? I don't know if she can trust that. She can't. Who does she have to turn to right now? The way I view the game right now is you have the one alliance of Shan, Danny, Deshawn, and Lyanna, and the other alliance of Xander, Tiffany, and Evie. And then you have Erica, Heather, Ricard, and Nasir as floaters. But I don't necessarily know if they're going to be able to work them over. I just don't know if they got it. Yeah, sorry, that was a lot to dump on.
Yeah, I mean, In terms of my perspective with Evie, as I've said before, Evie's had the second most amount of confessionals. She's had a lot of screen time. They've established her very well as a character in the first couple episodes, and then she kind of went absent for the rest of the pre-merge. With Evie, though, I'm really thinking that like Evie makes it to the end, because I think on paper Evie is not in a good spot, but it's at a point where Evie is such a big target that she's the target people don't want to go to because it's obvious. So she'll be able to slip by till the game starts to shake up. And so that's where I'm kind of thinking if Evie makes it to the end, it was this episode that solidified her as she's too big of a target. We need to go for someone else that's kind of safe, but still knocks her numbers down. But with Evie, really, really liked her the first 2 episodes. And then by the end of the second episode, I was like, all right, I saw her rationale with getting out Voce. I don't really think it was a good move. And then with not a whole lot of content with Evie, I was just like, do I really care for Evie? And then now I'm just at a point where like, normally I love rooting for underdogs, but I of the 3 underdogs right now, I think I actually care for Evie the least, and that's actually probably saying a lot because
less
I
than
really
Tiffany.
don't like Tiffany. Yeah, because I really don't like Tiffany either. Yeah, Tiffany is good, chaotic entertainment. What's that?
I said that's surprising that you're pulling for Tiffany more.
The thing is that like I think Evie has the potential to be a good player, but at least as of now, her narrative has been like kind of
very middle of the road game body, in my opinion. That's how
I think the female part of it had taken over, and she weakened her tribe just to ensure that women would go further, but also at the detriment to her tribe. And then
to be fair, though,
her application did say pet peeves, men.
Yeah, but to be fair, though, I'm not sure if she'd made any mistakes other than apparently keeping Lyanna, which I don't think she could have predicted because Lyanna was like her number 1. Because, do you think Voce would have volunteered to possibly play an idol on Evie? I don't think he would. I think Voce is like, I'm sticking around another day. That's what I'm doing. I'm going to wait to see how this all plans out and maybe find a crack for myself.
To be fair, it's like I don't really think they weakened the tribe all that much. I think if they voted out Xander, it would have weakened the tribe more than vote.
They got rid of
to see Voce go in that spot. I really did, but
I think Abraham and Voce over Tiffany, who pretty much contributed nothing even to the challenges that they won.
Only the one challenge she really sucked at. She was fine in all the rest of them. But I will say this, though. If they did get rid of Tiffany there for Evie, it leaves her more vulnerable. Because then if they lose another challenge and they're voting on strength, who are they going for? Not Lyanna. She is a beast. Every challenge that we've seen in the group thing, Lyanna has like gone through it like water down a slide. Yeah. It's been...
But the thing is that, okay, so like looking at their tribe, right? Let's say they did get rid of Tiffany for the first time, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they would have had a fair chance of winning the second challenge. And if they would have won their second challenge, I think with the tribe that they then had, I think they would have actually been able to continue to win like they ended up doing. And the one challenge, oh my God, I still cannot believe the blue tribe tried to throw the challenge and the other 2 tribes did so horribly. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Cagayan, the bronze tribe tried to throw the challenge, and Jatia just couldn't swim, and neither could Cass. And so,
they sucked as a tribe. Oh my God!
Yes, they did.
I mean, I think it's literally the very first challenge of that season shows how horrible the Brains tribe was as challengers. But anyway, with Evie though, Voce and Xander were so with her.
That's fair.
Evie would have, because the thing is Lyanna, I would make the argument Lyanna's number 1 was not Evie. Lyanna's number 1 was Tiffany.
Uh-huh.
That's true. That they did seem to have a good
Yeah, and she underestimated that. I think if you were going to get rid of a male, though, yes, Voce was the better decision because of Xander sharing all of that information with her. But yeah, I don't think Evie was. I almost feel like Evie was trying to play this like man-hating character. Because also, who the hell puts as their pet peeves men?
I think it was a little tongue-in-cheek.
There's a little bit of Spencer Bledsoe in that.
I mean, that's the thing. Like
exaggerating yourself for
yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like they were trying to kind of build a character.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. Maybe I really don't like her less than Tiffany, but I don't dislike her.
I mean, I think at this point, Evie's biggest ally has got to be Xander, right?
Yes,
well,
it is. Xander and her.
So it's like I really don't take a lot of stock in the whole pet peeve men thing. I really don't. I really think.
Here's the thing, though.
I think it's out of necessity, though.
The biggest problem with Evie is last Tribal Council. Because what did we see? We saw Xander almost go to bat for Evie, but he also gave it to Tiffany. So that showed that Xander, Tiffany, and Evie were a united front. A strong three, even if you were a floater, going in an alliance with a strong three, unless you feel like you also have a strong three, that doesn't feel like it's a good I'd rather go into a more loose four than a strong three.
Well, and as I said it earlier too, right before Tiki told me earlier not to talk about Xander, but I will at least bring it up again. This point, just real quick, is that Xander, the three he did want after Voce was gone was Tiffany, Evie, and him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's fine with that strong three. And of course, it's better to go with the strong three than a loose four. And Shan fucked that up.
No, I'm saying you don't want to go with the strong three. If I'm like a floater, I don't want to be with the strong three because that's the final three right there. I want to go with the loose four because maybe I can snug into that loose four.
I thought you were referring to the strong three as in their relationship, not three strong players. Because
I'm saying if I'm like Erica or Heather or Nasia, one of the floaters, who doesn't really have an alliance yet. If I'm one of those players, who do I want to go with? Do I want to go with a tribe that is super united that I don't think are going to turn on each other? Or am I going to go with a group that seems a little strong but might not necessarily stick with each other? It might be a larger number, but I think also it's a bunch of smaller numbers together, which is different. Unless I'm getting too complicated. I don't know.
No, I hear what you're saying. I guess I misunderstood you the first time, but
that's why I'm saying I don't feel confident for Evie moving to the end, unless it's a thing where they get out Xander first, and then they get out Tiffany, and then Evie's just left there. Then I could see her worm her way into a temporary alliance and get closer to the end. But
yeah, I mean, it's just I have a really hard time grasping Evie and Shan not making it to the end. They have dominated in screen time way too much for the first half of the season. One of them has to make it to the end. I'm not taking
stock in the dominating the screen time thing just because of JD, though.
JD dominated screen time like for the first episode. And then he had a fair amount on his boot episode, which also made sense.
I mean, Rick Devens had a lot of screen time. He didn't make it to the end.
But that was the point that I made earlier, though. Fallen Angel, which is what I'm saying about Shan. I think she'll be the Fallen Angel. Same thing.
I don't know.
Same thing with David from Millennials versus Gen X. He's dominated in screen time. He was the Fallen Angel.
Well, we'll have to wait and see on Evie. I think that right now, I think you're right that she might not be the next boot, but I think you can't forget about her, especially over what happened last episode. Especially when you have Lyanna that knows how good of a player she is. Like there was a moment where Shan was like, I don't think she's that dangerous. And Lyanna was like, yes, she is.
I mean, as I've said it before, Survivor's a very fluid game. You have no clue what's going to happen 2 rounds from now out of necessity, especially with how fast-paced this season is compared to other seasons.
That's true.
I'm telling you, I think Evie is on paper in a bad spot, but then in another way in a good spot because she's so big of a target. People aren't going to go for her. And then it's going to get to a point where she's going to be able to make other moves. I'm telling you, Shan and Evie have to make it very, very, very far. Otherwise,
I can see her making it
for the
to
dominating of narrative.
I could see her making it to the finale. I just don't see her at the final.
Fair enough.
But anyway.
I could see her at the final specifically because of how many open relationships she has right now.
Evie over Shan?
Well, they both have a lot of relationships, but like Evie has
But Evie burned a couple. Like, well, not personally, but like a couple were burned on her. Like Deshawn tried to vote her out. And
I don't necessarily think the bridge is burned between her and Deshawn just because I could see them mending that bridge just because of the circumstances surrounding that vote.
They seem like a fair group of players. I think most of anyone who would have been bitter has already gone from the game.
I'm not sure about bitterness. I'm just saying I'm trust. You know, I'm not sure how well I could trust them. Maybe for a vote. I could see a vote, but I'm not saying I could form a new alliance with them to go to the end.
Sure. All right. Guys, I kind of want to just do sort of a lightning round for the last few people because I feel like they've come up quite a bit in conversation otherwise. So
you got it.
All over the place.
So Lyanna, I do think Lyanna is getting a pretty decent edit, and I agree. I forget who made this point, but I agree that like in another season, I could totally see her being a character that like maybe has like a few confessionals through the whole merge and then sort of quietly goes out post merge. But I don't know, man. I don't really think it's just circumstance here. I mean, she did sort of luck into that, the Mario Party twist, as I'll call it. But, steal a star. But I digress.
She found Boo.
Right, exactly. But I do think that she has a really solid head on her shoulders, and I mean, she did execute a pretty good flip as far as just they weren't necessarily all that onto her. I mean, I should say if not for the stupid twist, they wouldn't have been on to her.
Had it not been
for Shan. It hasn't been for Shan. Like I love Shan, but Shan let
she would have pulled off. Yeah, Lyanna would have pulled off one of the best moves of the season had it not been for Shan. I'll say this because you do want to keep it to a lightning round, and I kind of already talked about her a little bit. She's had a fair amount of coverage the entire game, most coverage being these past 2 episodes. I think either she's got a fiery next couple episodes before she gets booted, or she makes it pretty much damn near the end. No, I think she's got a good head on her shoulders, and I'm very excited to see what they're doing with her character.
I'm predicting a Lyanna and Shan final 2. I don't know who's their third, but I think she's making it to the end.
Lyanna and Shan might be the best established final 2 in the whole game. I mean, we could have argued that was Ricard and Shan before last episode.
No, not after last
up in flames.
I mean, that was all Ricard's fault. But with them being the final 2, they're not very good players if they take each other to the final 2 or in a final 3 or whatever.
Agreed.
No, I think it would be in Shan's best interest to take Lyanna to the final 2 or 3. I think it's all in the story that's told. Well, that's what we're all here about. What is the story that was told at the merge here? The story was told at the merge was Lyanna was convinced to turn against her regular alliance. And Shan was able to keep hers. Now, sure, Ricard won immunity, so it's not like she even had the opportunity to turn on Ricard. But the fact that Lyanna was shown in that vote told the story that Lyanna was the follower and that Shan was more of the leader. And that way, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal for... Now, it depends on how bitter they are. Maybe like a few of the tribe on the yellow tribe still are really good with Lyanna. But I think that if it comes to a point where it's just like, well, who do I vote for? I think that Shan is setting herself up to be the queen maker. The one, or not the queen, the one who is showing to be in control.
Yeah,
I think that's fair, but also don't discount Deshawn and Danny, who are a part of their plan making too.
Yes,
but also
they're not there
as characters in this show. My view on it is Lyanna is of more strategic mind than anything else, and Shan is of more social mind than anything else. Not to say that they don't have other characteristics, but that is their establishing or their dominant characteristics.
Right, but I would say that like if you can make people believe that you have more, like I mean I don't know, it depends on what do you categorize her convincing JD to give her the idol? Is that a strategic play or is that a social play?
It's a bit of both, but it's her social game. As Ricard even kind of said it, her social game is so freaking good that everyone loves her, despite her kind of being a little villainous and taking that advantage from JD twice. Yes, it is strategic, which also Ricard is also a factor in that, you know, even though JD doesn't know that, but it's all due to her social game. People, I'm telling you, I really think they're setting Shan up, and the players in the game view Shan as likable, as social, and that is going to be her dominating characteristic.
All right. Anyway, I don't really have too much to say of Lyanna then. It was she got hosed. I think that if she thought for a 1 second that those guys knew that she was turning on them, that maybe she could have just read the room and you know, Xander being like, hey, everybody look at my idol would have been a little bit of an obvious ploy. But she didn't know that, and there was no way of her to necessarily know that.
It felt very obvious. I mean, granted, you get caught up in the game, but also I wish Lyanna would have just been like, Shan, can you tell me if that's a real or fake idol?
Well, Survivor doesn't make them stylized anymore, right? I don't even think they make them necessarily the same anymore.
They've been all three people that have had the idols. They're all relatively the same, I believe.
I haven't really taken a good look at them, but you know, like after I thought it was like after Joe tried his fake idol in season 30, they're like, okay, we're not going to make the idols as the same theme anymore, just so people can make fake ones.
Not from season to season, but I mean, I could be completely wrong. I could be talking a little bit of bullshit, but I believe the idols this season have been more like necklaces, whereas Xander's was like a bracelet.
Maybe. I mean, that's true, but I guess with Shan, like maybe she couldn't be certain that was it. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff they could have done. Like some people were saying, it's like, could you have gotten yourself a regular piece of paper and just said, do you have an idol? He says, no, you can have this fake one. And then Shan says, actually, I have the actual advantage. You know, it's like, could they have done a twist like that? I don't know, but
yeah, fair enough.
Right.
Anyways, I don't have any more to say, Leon.
Okay, Tiffany.
I said as much as I had to say about her. I think she's chaotic, good entertainment. As a player, I don't really see her. But I was very surprised, especially given how paranoid they set her up to be, that she actually listened to Xander and was like, it is your idol in the reality of it. Do you want me to play it? That shocked me, which leaves me hope that Tiffany could become something more as this game goes on. But as of now, I don't really see it.
I think she might be coming a little bit into her own. Like when we saw her in that episode where Voce went out, she was paranoid as anybody we've ever seen on Survivor, to the point where it's just like all logic went out the window. It's like, no, Xander can't vote. Okay, but what if he can? But no, he can't. No, but what if he can't? But he can't. But what if he can? It's just like it was just like you couldn't explain it to her. But I feel like Tiffany still is too manic. I feel like she gets like I think she has a little bit more game than we were giving her credit for, but I don't think she necessarily has winner upside yet, because I don't think she has the strategic element. But I think she does have a good like place that she's going to try to find a place to fit in this game. Like if her alliance gets taken out, she's going to be fine. She's going to find a new home to make her nest. She's not going to I think that Tiffany will be crazy and whatnot, but as the longer the game goes on, the more tempting that's going to be to keep.
I feel like if she happens to make it far, people could be tempted to, as not a traditional GOAT, but be tempted to take her to the end, where she might have played a game, but it was weak by comparison to a lot of the other strong players. But also with Tiffany, I feel like, as I've said like 20 times now, like Evie is in that spot on paper where it's bad, but that spot where she's too big of a target, and I feel like Xander's in that category too.
And Tiffany could be the safe vote.
Exactly. Tiffany could be the safe vote. That's all I have to say about Tiffany.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah, I will say from a character perspective, I think out of the three of us, I probably like her the most out of the three of us. I don't know, just because I kind of dig her sort of like, you know, I already said like the eye roll thing with Xander, that kind of won me over to her as a character. Just because I think she has really great reaction shots, and that's probably like the one thing I really value from her as a character. And as far as gameplay goes, I think she's like a little bit in that sort of like Kathy / Holly mode of like being a train wreck in the early days and then kind of like getting her footing later on. I just don't think she's as good of a player as either one of those. And I think unlike those two, I don't think she would win if she made it to the end. Just because I do agree with that point that I could totally see her being someone that people would want to drag to the end just because like she it's not like she has no game, but it'd be pretty easy to, you know, to beat her just based on the fact that like she has a sloppy game.
The one thing I will want to say about, I kind of forgot about it. I do want to say about her is I think her biggest social problem is she always approaches everybody with such intensity. There's no casualness about her. She's always like when she heard about Lyanna's advantage, she's like, "Oh, you had an advantage? No, don't worry. I wouldn't have told anyone. You're good. It's like, geez, calm down."
Like, if I was in Lyanna's spot, I'd be like, okay, so clearly she's going to tell everyone.
Yeah, it's just like even when she's telling the truth, though, it was like that moment where she on the hidden island with her and Brad and Sydney. She's like, "Oh, so what are we doing here, guys? What are we doing?" She's like so intense all the time with her conversations, and I'm just like, chill, slow it down, just have a normal conversation.
Yeah, totally.
I would agree. And I think, once again, that's an even more reason why they should have gotten her out very early on, because she could potentially be a very dangerous Alliance member, you know, not purposely being to the detriment of the Alliance, but really being, you know, she's just detrimental in general. But it is also very interesting with Sid's interview that she had. She actually said that that scene where she met Tiffany on like episode 2 or 3 or whenever it was, I think it's 3. It was kind of not edited correctly because Sid and Tiffany actually made a really good bond there, whereas they actually edited to be more antagonistic for each other, and literally to the point where Sid and Tiffany actually have remained good friends outside of the game.
I heard about this, yeah.
Well, you never can be sure what you believe, but I still say she needs to take a chill pill. Anyway, let's move on.
100%.
All right. So finally, we get to Xander.
Did we literally just forget about Heather altogether?
We talked about her.
Did we? I totally forgot. Never mind.
We literally said everything we need to say.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, for a second, I thought we like skipped over her title card and everything. It was like, okay,
we did.
How fitting.
Yeah, we did skip over a title card, but we I mean, the thing is,
we got it.
Yeah, we talked out of order for everyone. But with Xander, though, once again, I feel like we've talked about Xander a lot. I think Xander, you know, you look at him and, you know, you get a little bit of an introduction to him, and you kind of think right off the bat, he has the potential to be one of those big front runners who then gets knocked out because he's too much of a big front runner to people. And then also with that, you also have the other side, which JD brings up in the very first episode, where like players like him, JD, and Shan, they're so very young that oftentimes they end up being very naive and get knocked out for that. And I honestly was kind of thinking for a little bit that might have happened to Xander. But now I'm actually thinking, once again, Xander is very likable. He's athletic. He comes off very trusting. And as he shows trust to Tiffany and Evie, to the point of, I think Xander is going to make it probably to the middle of the merge. He'll be a big target that people might be scared to take out, especially given that he has an idol. And then beyond that, it'll get to a point where it's like, we really need to get Xander out, and they will.
Yeah, I think Xander is going to be a threat that everyone's going to be looking at, but probably will also use as a shield to take other people out. Like, oh, we got to get Xander out. Okay, here's who we're really taking out. I definitely can see him being used as that. I think that his biggest problem is let's be clear. It is not because his strategic play that Evie didn't go home last night. If they had the time to really talk about it, one person would have voted differently and Evie would have gone home. Like there was no reason for the other alliance to put the majority of the votes on Sydney over Evie. Especially since, well, I guess I don't know. I guess they were worried about I guess with Sydney voting, they didn't realize she was to take her shot in the dark, but it's so confusing. But I don't think there was necessarily still a reason, because then there still would have been 4 votes to 4 on the revote. It would have been 4 votes Sydney, 4 votes Deshawn. I don't think there was a reason they needed to vote out Sydney, and they could have put it on Evie. But he's like, I got you. I didn't need to vote you, or we didn't need to use the idol. True, he didn't. But that wasn't because of his strategic gameplay. They got lucky with that.
Yeah,
I just think it was just a really flashy move, and it's a flashy move that I can appreciate just because it did make for really good TV.
Yeah, and the move
also, I appreciate any move that. This is why I am such an advocate for Tommy as a winner, even though he's a pretty boring character. Is that I just appreciate any winner who can just win without twists. And like, while Xander, it's like he did do the whole the fake idol, leveraging a real idol. I mean, that is pretty modern play, but he was playing it against a straight up bullshit twist. So, I think just by that very reason, I have to root for him in that regard. I mean, I agree with you that as far as numbers go, it was pretty situational, but I do think it made for really good TV. My grandpa, who I have not really talked about on this podcast, but I feel like my grandpa is a pretty good parameter for someone who does really like the strategy, but also he's not in the weeds with it as much as we are. So
not watching the edit.
Yeah, exactly. So he just really can't stand the twists. Like he's I think he's even more anti-twist than we are, because he can't really see the potential of the twists. And so with Xander, he was he lit up, man. It's like I haven't seen him light up about anything like that in Survivor in a while. I mean, it was just a great moment, just because we were both kind of hollering at the screens, so
what do you guys think about the flashback?
What?
Love it. Love it too. Love it. I mean, literally, Tiki, did I not say that on the first podcast? Did I not say that on the first podcast? I said literally on our first podcast right after the first episode, I really hope this season that they do the flashback stuff like they did the last time they did it, I believe was David versus Goliath. I love that. It's great fucking storytelling.
Yeah. And it plays off like a heist. Like, what? I thought we had you behind bars. Here's what you didn't see. While you were in the basement, I was changing into the janitor's uniform and going down to the bank vault and taking all it's like I do like that. That has this, and it gives you with a sense of you, even when you're pretty sure you know what's going to happen, there might be something else that you don't know is going to happen. Now, I was pretty sure that they weren't going to have Xander hold the idol. I was pretty sure of that, but I do like that we're able to have this with ta-da sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's a good last note to end this out on, is that generally speaking, for as BS as some of the twists are, I do think that the editors are doing a really good job overall. With the obvious exception of Heather, but it seems to me like Heather's just kind of like a wet blanket in general. So whatever.
You can't get water from a stone, no matter how much you pull. Some people are just not going to suck up the screen time.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I do think they have done a really good job of balancing out the screen time. I mean, Shan is obviously the front runner, but I think she kind of deserves to be. Like we've all said, she's one of the most dynamic female players we've ever seen, I think.
I don't quite agree with that statement, not the Shan statement, but in terms of the balancing of characters. We have had such big characters this season, and I think a big reason for it. What's that?
It's been a little top heavy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like,
but I mean, unlike a season like Samoa or
yes.
God forbid Ghost Island.
In comparison to a lot of seasons,
I feel like I at least know where everyone stands.
When you got 40 seasons and you can pick out an individual one, yes.
Of course.
But no, I think the thing about it is that there are a handful of people that have been dominating the screen time, but once again, there are just a number of really strong characters this season that, I mean, with someone like Heather versus the rest of the cast, do you really try and give Heather more screen time?
Would I like? Here's the thing. Sometimes you're like, I would lose some, like, to use your Samoa example, I would lose some Russell Hantz scenes to get some more Natalie White scenes. I don't think I would lose any of Shan scenes or Evie scenes or Deshawn scenes to get more of Heather.
That's totally fair. Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair.
I guess so, but I also think about episode 5. So the last episode, I guess, before technically the merge, Shan's screen time was way more than the other 2 members of her tribe.
Yes.
When
she did go to Fifth Wheel Island.
I mean, technically she was the swing vote in that scenario. So
she was, but also, like, you should balance it a little bit better, especially given that, like, the options are one of those 2 might actually go home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say this, and I think this was the problem from the very first episode. I love the but I also kind of, like, as soon as that moment happened, I'm like, Shan's going to be here for a while. Like, you do not give a character a theme if they're going out episode 3.
So right. With that though, I don't want to hear that anymore in her confessionals. They can just play the song, and I already know it. Because they played the confessional a couple times, and I'm like, okay, we get it.
Yeah, the second time, okay, you could have just played the song.
But I was actually on the Survivor subreddit after like episode 1 or 2, and someone actually said that Shan like villain theme was actually a sound that they or a small musical piece that they actually used in the early teens of Survivor.
Oh, I could totally believe that.
And that it hasn't been used. Yeah, and it hasn't been used since then. But that's where someone I have to really dig into the Survivor subreddit again. But I thought that was very interesting. Yeah, I thought that was very interesting. If that is actually true, Shan actually got it from an early season. It's so obscure that now it's just, synonymous with her.
I can't wait for the next season where you have somebody who will say, oh yeah, I have a theme too that goes in my head when I do something evil. I wonder when you get ancient voices back on the show.
Right.
Oh, I missed the theme song.
But yeah, I mean, I do think that at the very least, I feel like the way that they've been telling the story, twists notwithstanding, I guess, although the flashbacks do have to do with the twist. But I dig the flashbacks, man. This is a whole long-winded way of me saying I dig the flashbacks.
I don't blame anything on this, any of the shortcomings on this season on the editing. And there's some seasons you can point at the editing as being a big flaw this season. I don't think that's something with this.
Ghost Island.
Yeah. But I don't think I don't think that's any of the problems with this season. Cast is great, editing is great. Too much production getting their mitts on things. I can't believe that this is the takeaway that they took after season 41. We're like, get rid of XL Allen. We don't care about these fire tokens, probes. We're like, okay. So I hear what you're saying. What you're saying is, we need more production involvement, right? No, Jeff, no.
I mean, like I said, just to round it out, I mean, frankly, I'm surprised that this is still going on post 3.
Yeah. Oh, that pissed me off.
So, all right.
But
anyways, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Casey, big thanks to having you on as always, man. I need to add the Prometheus link for you because I was so focused on getting Lazer Dude stuff out there that I forgot about you. I'm sorry, I'll get it up there, but And then Lazer Dude, man, as I said, like basically like when you first came on, I feel like we've kind of like gravitated in the same sort of like, you know, geek culture, small YouTuber sphere.
Superheroes and Survivor.
Yeah, forever. And so I feel like this is a great kind of like meeting of the minds. I feel like this was long overdue, sir.
Well, I'm glad that I could come and join you guys.
Indeed. All right, folks. Well, I already forgot what the God. I feel like it's just a reoccurring joke at this point that I don't have an outro for this. So yeah.
The advantages have spoken.
I guess. All right, folks. Have a good night. See you later.
Have a good night.
Do 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 do.